forgotten room. One rainy afternoon, the circus performers were all gathered inside the big tent, avoiding the storm that had started glitching through the digital sky. Kane had no new challenges for them, so the group was left to their own devices. While Jax and Kinger played cards and Regatha repaired one of her broken props, Pomni couldn't help but notice a door she had never seen before. That door had always been there, she asked, pointing it out. The others glanced over. Never seen it, Jax shrugged. But then again, this place is always changing. Pomni was the curious one walking toward it, despite Regatha's warning. Careful, Pomni. We don't know where that leads. I just want to see what's inside, Pomni replied, her hand reaching for the knob. With a creak, the door swung open, revealing a dimly lit room filled with strange, forgotten objects. Old circus props, dusty furniture, and cracked mirrors. The room seemed abandoned, as though it had been locked away for years. Spooky, Jax commented, though he followed Pomni inside, intrigued. The moment they stepped into the room, the atmosphere changed, the lights flickered, and the door slammed shut behind them. Guys? Gangle said nervously. I don't like this. Pomni reached for the door, but it wouldn't budge. We're trapped! Suddenly, one of the mirrors lit up, showing a reflection of a circus tent. But it wasn't their tent. It looked older. Regatha stepped forward, mesmerized. That's the original tent, the one before Kane took over. The mirror showed performers from a past generation of the circus, going through the same routines they had been doing for years. But something was wrong. The performers looked sad, drained, as if they were stuck performing against their will. Are they trapped? Pomni whispered, horrified. It looks like it, Regatha replied, her voice shaky. They're like us, but forgotten. The group began to explore the room, realizing it was a storage space for everything that had been lost or abandoned in the circus. Kinger found a chest filled with old costumes, while Jack stumbled upon a dusty music box that played an eerie, off-key tune. As they searched, Pomni found a journal tucked away in a corner. It belonged to one of the original performers, and its final entry sent a chill down her spine. We were once the stars, but now we are trapped in the Forgotten Room. Beware those who enter, for you may never leave. Just then, the mirrors flickered again, and the reflections of the past performers began to move, reaching out toward the group. We need to get out of here, Gangle shouted, backing away from the mirrors. The door still wouldn't open, and panic began to set in. Regatha, thinking quickly, suggested they try to recreate a performance from the journal. If we finish their last act, maybe the room will release us. Reluctantly, the group agreed. Jax played the music box, while Pomni and Regatha performed a clumsy, improvised version of the old routine described in the journal. The shadows in the mirrors watched them closely, their eyes filled with hope and sadness. As the performance reached its end, the room began to glow. The mirrors shattered, and the door unlocked with a loud click. The shadows of the forgotten performers faded away, their spirits finally freed. The group rushed out, slamming the door behind them. Let's never go in there again, Jax said, shuddering. Kane appeared, seemingly unaware of what had happened. Ah, I see you found the old prop room, he said cheerfully. I wouldn't worry about it. It's just full of memories. Pomni, Regatha, and the others exchanged uneasy glances. Some memories, it seemed, were better left forgotten. Kane's mysterious game. It was another ordinary day in the digital circus, or as ordinary as days could be in a place where the laws of physics were more of a suggestion than a rule. Pomni was once again trying to make sense of her surroundings, forever seeking a way out. Kinger, as always, was lost in his paranoid mutterings, convinced the walls were watching him. And Jax, well, Jax was being his usual mischievous self, setting up traps for anyone unfortunate enough to cross his path. But today felt different. Kane, the ever-boisterous ringleader of this bizarre virtual reality, floated into the center of the circus grounds, grinning from ear to ear. His monocle gleamed as he looked over the group. Gather round, my digital darlings. I've got something extra special in store for you today. Great! Jax drawled sarcastically, leaning against one of the candy-striped poles. Another one of your fun ideas, huh? Kane chuckled, his grin never faltering. Oh, Jax, always the skeptic. But trust me, today's game is one for the ages. It's a scavenger hunt. Pomni perked up. A scavenger hunt? She asked, eyes wide with curiosity. What are we supposed to find? Ah, well, that's the trick, isn't it? Kane said, snapping his fingers. A flurry of brightly colored papers appeared in midair, each one covered in cryptic symbols. You'll need to follow the clues. Find all the pieces of the key, and you'll unlock the grand prize. What's the prize? Ragatha asked, cautiously optimistic. Kane winked. Why, freedom, of course. The entire group froze. Pomni's heart raced. Freedom? Could it really be that easy? But nothing was ever that straightforward in the digital circus. Don't get your hopes up, Zubul muttered, rolling their eyes. It's probably just another one of his tricks. But for Pomni, this was a glimmer of hope. She had to try. The hunt begins. The group split up, each armed with one of Kane's cryptic clues. Pomni read hers aloud. The thing you seek is light as air, yet deeper than the darkest despair. What's that supposed to mean? She mumbled to herself, wandering through the twisting paths of the circus. The colorful tents and stalls were as disorienting as ever, but she had to stay focused. Pomni found herself near the House of Mirrors. Its warped reflection stared back at her, mocking her with exaggerated versions of her face. She hesitated but stepped inside, the clue running through her mind. Light as air, darker than despair, she whispered, looking at the distorted reflections. It was then that she noticed something odd, a mirror in the corner that wasn't reflecting her at all. Instead, it showed a deep void, swirling with shadow. Her heart skipped a beat. This had to be it. She reached out tentatively, her fingers brushing against the cold glass. To her surprise, her hand slipped through. Before she could think twice, she stepped into the void. The other side. Pomni found herself in a dark, eerie landscape, a stark contrast to the circus's usual bright and chaotic atmosphere. The air was thick, and the only sound was the distant echo of wind. In the center of this strange place stood a pedestal with a glowing, ethereal fragment hovering above it. The first piece of the key, she whispered. She reached out and grasped it. As soon as her fingers closed around the fragment, a cold voice echoed through the darkness. Beware the shadows, for they hunger. Pomni turned around, but there was nothing there. She didn't wait to find out what the voice meant. Clutching the fragment tightly, she made her way back through the void and into the House of Mirrors. A race against time. As Pomni emerged back into the circus, she saw that the others had also returned, each holding their own piece of the key. Jax looked unusually serious. Ragatha seemed uneasy, and Kinger was muttering even more fervently than usual. Something's not right about this, Ragatha said, glancing around nervously. Kane's never offered us freedom before. Before anyone could respond, the ground beneath them began to shake. The circus warped, colors bleeding into one another, and a thick, inky darkness seeped up from the cracks in the ground. The shadows! Pomni gasped. remembering the voice. Kane appeared above them, his usual grin wider than ever. "Oh, I forgot to mention, the key must be assembled before the shadows catch you. Good luck." Chaos erupted as the group scrambled to assemble the key. Pomni, heart pounding, connected her fragment with Regatha's. Jax tossed his into the mix, barely dodging a tendril of shadow that lashed out at him. The shadows were closing in, their cold presence sapping the warmth from the air. Kinger fumbled with his piece, hands shaking, but at the last second, Pomni grabbed it and slotted it into place. The key shone brightly, and in a flash of light, the shadows evaporated. The prize. As the dust settled, the group found themselves back in the circus. The key floated before them, glowing softly. "So, do we get our prize now?" Jax asked, eyeing Kane suspiciously. Kane clapped his hands. Of course, of course. Congratulations, my dear contestants. You've won." The key floated higher, and for a moment, it looked like something was about to happen. Something big. But then, with a soft pop, the key burst into a cloud of confetti. Jax groaned. "Are you kidding me?" Kane laughed, twirling in the air. "Oh, come now! You didn't think I'd let you leave that easily, did you?" Pomni felt her heart sink. She should have known better. Freedom was still out of reach. But at least for a brief moment, they'd all worked together. And perhaps, someday, they would find a real way out. Regatha's Rewind roller coaster. It was another thrilling day at the amazing digital circus, and Regatha was determined to make it the best day ever. She'd been working on a new act, a synchronized roller coaster routine that would combine speed, loops, and perfectly timed jumps, all set to a catchy 8-bit soundtrack. Regatha's enthusiasm was infectious, and soon everyone, even the ever-cautious Pomni, was on board to try the ride. Kane, ever the showman, promised that this would be the most exciting ride in circus history. And if anything goes wrong, Kane added with a mischievous grin, we can always hit the rewind button. As the ride started, the coaster cars zoomed through digital tunnels, flipping and spinning in perfect harmony. Regatha was at the front, beaming with pride as her plan seemed to work flawlessly. But then, just as they hit the first major loop, a massive glitch appeared on the track, a gaping hole of missing code right in their path. The coaster cars shot through the glitch, sending the group spinning out of control through corrupted data and broken animations. The track began to warp and bend in impossible ways, creating a nightmarish loop of endless drops and spirals. Zubul lost half her parts along the way. Gangle's comedy mask flipped to tragedy mid-loop, and Kinger was upside down, screaming something about giant bees. Kane, floating above the chaos, laughed with delight. "Oh, this is much better than what we planned. But how about we add a twist?" With a snap, Kane hit the rewind button. The roller coaster reversed, zooming backward at twice the speed. The performers were flung into reverse loops, experiencing the entire ride in chaotic rewind. Just when they thought it was over, Kane hit fast forward, speeding up the entire experience until it was nothing but a blur of screaming and spinning. Regatha, trying to keep her cool, called out, "Kane, stop the ride!" But Kane, ever the playful ringleader, just laughed. "What fun is stopping? Let's do it again!" Finally, Pomni, who had been desperately calculating the chaos, managed to hit the emergency stop. The ride screeched to a halt, leaving everyone dizzy, disassembled, or in Gangle's case, both laughing and crying at the same time. Regatha staggered off the ride, still trying to put on a brave face. Well, maybe not exactly how I planned, but that was something. cane clapped, still hovering. A splendid display of adaptability, Ragatha. And remember, in the amazing digital circus, the show is never truly over. It's just on loop. As everyone staggered back to their routines, Ragatha made a mental note. Next time, maybe just stick to something simpler, like juggling. And so, the circus continued, with every glitch and rewind adding to the never-ending adventure that was the amazing digital circus.